This is the week of testing cheese because I already tested Jarlsberg and then I tested something else. Oh, I didn't film that one. It was just for me. And now today I'm filming the Tomme that we made. I was just outside picking red raspberries and I told my husband he was supposed to be picking the green beans and the tomatoes while I was out there, but he didn't do it. Instead, he raked up all the black walnuts in the yard, which is good, but not what needed to be done. And so now it is lunchtime. I picked all my red raspberries and I'm starving now, and he just went out to pick the green beans and he will be out there for a little bit. So I'm going to open up the cheese and taste it. So this is the Alpine Tomme that we had pressed, and then it did not, the moisture kept coming out. It's dry salted after it's pressed, and after the certain amount of days, it was still leaking a lot of moisture. And so I just kept salting it until it stopped doing that. So I'm curious to see how this one turned out. This is a 2-month-old Tomme. It is made with calcium chloride. It was 7.5 gallons of milk. It had rennet, and I cultured it with yogurt. It's Gavin Weber's recipe. If you want to watch me make it, I'll click to the link up here. And we're going to cut into this and see how it worked with all that dry salting that I did at as kind of like a fix for this leaky brine problem that I had. Smell test. Has an acidy tang to it. Don't know if I like that smell. That to me is not the most pleasant. This cheese also feels hard. There's not much liquid in the bag, but you can see like these white things, whatever that is. See those spots? I'm talking about these things right here. That right there. What is that from? It's like a calcium deposit maybe? Not sure. I just made that up. I have no idea. It's a hard cheese. This one got really hard. Like really hard. Whew. There's the center of it. So let's see how this tastes. It's really hard. Feels kind of dry. I brushed my teeth a minute ago, so it takes me a minute to taste it. First off, taste is good. Tastes nice, tastes mild, tastes a little bit salty. Nothing bad, nothing funky about it. It's good. It's really non-offensive. Decent cheese. Good. Like that. Number 2, texture. It's a little bit wonky. It's not rubbery at all. It's breakable. Like it just snaps. But it doesn't crumble in the sense that like dry shattering. But when you chew it, it's like you're almost chewing a dry pressed ricotta. Like you can taste all those little grains. It's kind of, as you chew, it breaks down into this, it's not a creamy, soft paste. It's a little bit granular. I don't know if that makes sense. And it's dry. But the flavor is really nice. So, in conclusion, if your cheese is still leaking moisture and you're dry salting it, just keep dry salting it. And it's kind of just perfectly fine. What I usually do when I cut into a big cheese like this is I'll reseal half of it and let it age for another 6 months or 9 months or however long until I want it. And then the other part I portion into like 4 or 5 wedges and backpack it, and then we just eat that. This is still a young cheese, so maybe as this half is aging, like maybe it's going to be more like a, I mean, it is a thermo cheese. It was cultured with yogurt, but didn't get up to really high temps, but maybe it will become more of like almost like a cheddar or a hard crumbly dry cheese, perhaps as it gets older and have more flavor to it. But it's really fine. Not my best, but definitely not my worst. I kind of like it. I kind of really like it. in the sense that the flavor, the saltiness of it is really yummy. So, yay. This morning I was also flipping the cheeses down in the cheese fridge, and I pulled out some cheeses that are just not the great ones. Back when I was having trouble with the kefir and getting this funky taste with my cheeses, I kept aging them to see if they're going to get better, and I haven't been impressed with most of them. Some of them are okay, but most of them are, yeah. So I brought up a Butterkäse, which was air dried and then repacked on 6/15. This one, another one, Butterkäse. This is a Caerphilly, and these just are all kind of like snotty and goobery and slimy and gross. I have decided that I have too much good cheese to mess with the bad cheese. And I have pigs out there, and so I've been shoveling out my bad cheeses. The other day I got out a cheddar that had just a little bit of a funk to it. I didn't like the flavor. It was one of my kefir cheeses, I think. And I made it into sandwiches, and we didn't really like them. We could taste it. I didn't like it. I can sometimes disguise the bad cheese in grilled cheese when you mix it with other cheeses, or in mac and cheese. But in these sandwiches, which were just, it was sausage, egg, and cheese bagels, we could taste it. Already this morning I cut up a few other cheeses. This one is the American Jack. I don't like that. And this one was that cheddar. And this is all mixed in water. Let's do the two Butterkäse first. I'm going to take this as a chance to tell you something, because I left some better notes on this one. I made this Butterkäse on January the 20th, so it is 9 months old. I cultured it with yogurt. That's the thermo cheese. I said the problems were that the curds were too big and maybe not cooked long enough. And I was afraid it was going to be too salty. I cut the curds bigger than normal. Some were still flubby going into the press. Then I brined it for 18 hours. And I noticed when it was brining, but like some little cracks were splitting on the top of the cheese. So I wondered if it was just still too wet inside. Pressed it for quite a while, 20 hours-ish. The last 5 hours was at 40 pounds. And then a month later, when I tasted it, I said it was delicious, just the right amount of salty, so that's good. At the 6-month mark, there's a big piece in the bag, and I took it out, lots of whey in it, and I air dried it and resealed it. So that's what we're tasting today, I think. This is one that says air dried and repacked, and this is the one, I guess, that wasn't air dried, and you can see how much whey is in it. It's very juicy. This one is much less juicy, though there is some whey, much less juicy. Same cheese, very juicy. Juicy cheese just sounds wrong. I'm going to try the one that's less juicy first. Oh, it has that tacky smell to it that I did not like the other cheese another cheese I opened recently that I ended up feeding to the pigs. Like a tacky smell doesn't explain it to you, does it? It's like, I don't know what it is, but it's not quite right. But the texture of the cheese that I threw out, the other one, was really quite nice. More like a really hard cheddar. There's a brightness to this. I guess that would maybe be acid. I don't like that. It's not funky, but there's a brightness. So that must come from the curds not being cooked long enough. I'm not even gonna mess with that one. It's almost like gelatinous on the outside. Look how it crumbles. Well, shoot, this one actually tastes better. Hang on, that one's nicer. It doesn't have quite the same acid tang. I like the texture. It's kind of like it's like a cheddar. It's kind of buttery, crumbly. This is a Caerphilly back in December. I don't think I'm gonna like it. I used kefir with this one. It was a huge cheese, potentially not enough salt. I said it had surprisingly good flavor, but I don't really believe myself. It's like a bag of grossness. Look at this. When I talk about grossness in a bag, that's what I'm talking about. Look at all that slimy, goopy stuff. That is not pretty. It's almost like syrupy. It's like a newborn baby. Not to be gross or anything, but you know, they come out slimed. Similar texture as all the others. Nah, I could taste a little bit of the funk. It's not horrible at all. And I like the texture. A little bit creamy, it's crumbly, but it's smooth. All right, so this is the Caerphilly over here. I'm gonna give some to my husband and see what he says. It's actually decent. It's just nothing like the Butterkäse that I most recently made. I made one and it's creamy. It's almost like Oh, I do get a hint of acid. What's this acid mean? Let me check. If your cheese is tasting acidic, it means the curds needed to either be cooked longer, cut smaller, or heated to a higher temperature. So this is underdeveloped curd. And I would say this might be my two biggest problems, having a little bit of an acid hit to my cheese and having my cheese being rubbery. So they're two separate issues. Rubbery is a result of too much rennet, potentially, or cooking too long, stirring too much, or having, I think, like the higher temperatures. That's why I'm often trying to balance that out by doing a lower, like not cooking them as long, and then I get this problem. Haven't found the happy medium yet. I mean, sometimes I have, but it's almost by luck. I don't know how it feels yet. Anyway, I'm not thrilled with these. The Alpine's good. How much do you get?
This is half of a patch.
I need to know your opinions on these different cheeses. I'm not going to say anything about them, but there's slight differences. I want to see if you detect them.
Are they all the same cheese?
No, they're not all the same cheese.
Because this is like a trick you're playing on.
I'm not playing a trick on you. What do you think?
It's kind of similar to that one.
I'm debating whether or not I should throw these out or use them, but if they taste fine, I'll use them.
They should not be thrown out. There's nothing wrong with them.
Okay. I taste the funk with this. I don't think I like these.
Oh, other people may.
I doubt it. I don't think I want these three. The pigs can eat it. It's not a waste. Here we come.